Okay, good morning. Saturday, January 25th, 2025. This is our 11 a.m. Central Time tour through the Course in Miracles, one lesson per day from the Course in Miracles. We are on the 25th lesson. I do not know what anything is for, and while we get warmed up here and wait for people to join live, let's just quickly remind ourselves what we're doing here. We are engaging in a practice, a spiritual practice, through the framework of Course in Miracles in order to change our perception of the world, in order to change our thoughts from thoughts of separation, from thoughts of death, the ultimate separation, from thoughts of hatred, war, conflict, those type of things. And we are going to reprogram our mind, really take away the programming that has conditioned our minds to think in a limited fashion, to think of ourselves as a limited being instead of a conscious being, an unlimited being. So the first 50 lessons from A Course in Miracles, as we have said, are about deprogramming, unprogramming the mind, dissolving the ego consciousness, and first, of course, even recognizing the ego consciousness. And as we see some people stopping by, hello to Arnie, Harold, Gigi, Jeff, Deep Thoughts. That sounds interesting. Dennis Duval and Schleppman. Hello, welcome everybody. And if you get a chance, please like this live, and you can also follow this channel and follow this content, of course, on TikTok. Also, after this live every day, I download this live and then I put it up on YouTube in case you missed the 11 a.m. broadcast, the 11 a.m. live. You could go find it on YouTube under SVC 2011. That's Sierra Victor Charlie 2011 on YouTube. So the first 24 lessons are up there, and when we finish here today, I will then post this lesson. So let's get into it. The 25th lesson today from Course in Miracles says, I do not know what anything is for. And so, right, this is a statement. I love these statements from Course in Miracles, because we have to admit we are not thinking correctly. Most of these first 50 lessons are monitoring the mind, monitoring thought, sort of going over these affirmations and mantras in order to recondition the mind to examine itself, I guess. So 25 says, I do not know what anything is for. Yesterday, we said, I do not perceive my own best interests. And now these two lessons are going to go together today. Let's check it out and see what it says. Purpose is meaning. Today's idea explains why nothing you see means anything. That was also a previous lesson very early on in the month, is I do not know what anything is for. I do not understand anything that I see. Today's idea explains why nothing you see means anything. You do not know what it is for. Therefore, it is meaningless to you. Everything is for your own best interests. That is what it is for. That is its purpose. That is what it means. It is in recognizing this that your goals become unified. It is in recognizing this that what you see is given meaning. So it's talking about a unified consciousness, of course. Hey, Jonathan Wright is here. Hi, Jonathan. Good to see you. So it's talking about a unified consciousness, right? Mind is split. I've been conditioned to think with an ego mind. with an idea of separation. And now, first, I'm going to train myself to recognize that, and then I am going to start upon some lessons to rebuild the consciousness toward unity consciousness, one consciousness. Thanks for the likes, Jonathan. Anyone who's in here in the room, you can join Jonathan in liking this live, this broadcast. It helps out with everything. Appreciate it, Jonathan, as you know. So, you perceive the world and everything in it as meaningful in terms of ego goals. These goals have nothing to do with your own best interests because the ego is not you. This is a big concept here. This is an important concept. This is one of the main concepts from A Course in Miracles. You perceive the world and everything in it as meaningful in terms of ego goals, which is basically, what can I get? What's in it for me? These goals have nothing to do with your own best interests because the ego is not you. This false identification makes you incapable of understanding what anything is for. As a result, you are bound to misuse it. When you believe this, you will try to withdraw the goals you have assigned to the world instead of attempting to reinforce them. When I believe that I am misusing my consciousness, when I start to believe I am misusing my thoughts, I will withdraw my thoughts from the goals I have assigned to the world. What can I get from the world? A big house, a car, money. Okay, take no thought for the things of this world. Okay, take no thought for what you will put on. Take no thought for where you will live. Take no thought for how you will feed yourself, right? It's in the Bible from the Sermon on the Mount. And here is a reflection of that in this lesson. The lesson, again, is I don't know what anything's for. And of course, what's being explained here is that statement is true when I identify with my ego self. This can also be associated with the left brain. Okay, so we're also trying to activate the right side of our brain. We want to activate our intuition. We want to activate our global thinking. We want to actually connect the two different sides of the brain so that they function as one. I think that's called the corpus callosum, that connects the two sides of the brain. We want to activate that so that my intuition goes along with my logic and analysis, right? The logic and analysis, the technological world, the scientific world can only take us so far. Then there's this whole other way of thinking, this whole other region of thought, a unified field of thought where it's intuitive, where it is a global understanding and immediate understanding, which the Course calls the holy instant. It's a complete understanding instantaneously. It also calls that in the Course a revelation. It says, before you can make any sense out of the exercises for today, one more thought is necessary. At the most superficial levels, you do recognize purpose. For example, you do understand that a telephone, at the most superficial levels, I skipped a sentence there. At the most superficial levels, you do recognize purpose, yet purpose cannot be understood at these levels. For example, you do understand that a telephone is for the purpose of talking to someone who is not physically in your immediate vicinity. What you do not understand is what you want to reach him for. And it is this that makes your contact with him meaningful or not. So, of course, the same thing can be said about this live. The live connects me with other people like Jonathan. And here is Norbert. Hi, Norbert. How are you? And Carmen is here. I saw her pass through earlier. So, as it says, the telephone on a superficial level is to reach other people, to talk to them. But the meaning and the understanding is, what am I trying to reach you for? Same thing with this live, right? Why are we having this live? Is this live for likes? Is this live for more follows? Is that what the live is for? Is that what TikTok is for? Is that what social media applications are for? Social media platforms are for? They've been designed for a specific purpose according to the ego mind, but they can be used by the Holy Spirit, and it can be used by the Holy Spirit and the God consciousness. They can be used and given meaning for a different purpose. So, this live, what is the meaning of this live? What is the purpose of this live? Right, the meaning of this live, the purpose of the live is for a connection, for a deeper connection, for a deeper understanding of why we're all here, what we're all doing here, what consciousness is for. It is crucial to your learning to be willing to give up the goals you have established for everything. The recognition that they are meaningless rather than good or bad is the only way to accomplish this. The idea for today is a step in this direction. Okay? I do not know what anything is for. 6 practice periods, each of 2 minutes duration, are required. Each practice period should begin with a slow repetition of the idea for today, followed by looking about you and letting your glance rest on whatever happens to catch your eye. So first, in a general sense, we say it in a general sense, I do not know what anything is for. Then we repeat it in a specific sense. I do not know what this camera is for. I do not know what this telephone is for. I do not know what this computer is for. I do not know what this laptop is for. I do not know what these glasses are for. Say this quite slowly without shifting your eyes from the subject until you have completed the statement about it. Then move on to the next subject and apply today's idea as before. And again, the idea is to just do it, right? Just do it. You're going through these workbook lessons. We may not understand. They may not make sense. We may even actively resist them, as it says in the text and as it says in the workbook. And yet, we should just apply them, because through their application and over a period of time, it will become clear what is happening. Okay, perception will shift, consciousness will change, and I will begin to see the world differently. So, we are now on Chapter 4, Section 1 of the text. Yesterday, we read the introduction to Chapter 4. Today, Section 1 is called Right Teaching and Right Learning. And again, we've talked about this previously, but this is about teachers and learners. And you're going to see as we go through this is quite a long section. So I'm going to kind of skim through it and hit some highlights. But you will see that the Course in Miracles says a teacher and a learner are on the same level. If you read further into the book, if you read some of the supplements of the book, if you read the psychology, what's that called? There's supplements, because the 2 writers of this book were psychologists from Columbia University in New York City. So there is a section in the back of the book about psychology. But the idea is, they say that therapists and the patient are on the same level, and that the therapist is receiving the same kind of teaching and mind training that the patient is. So the idea is to understand quality in the true sense. And the Course in Miracles, of course, goes through that and explains that in detail. So let's introduce that thought to ourselves. It says here, a good teacher clarifies his own ideas and strengthens them by teaching them. Teacher and pupil are alike in the learning process. They are in the same order of learning. And unless they share their lessons, conviction will be lacking. A good teacher must believe in the ideas he teaches, but he must meet another condition. He must believe in the students to whom he offers the ideas. Many stand guard over their ideas because they want to protect their thought systems as they are. And learning means change. So, of course, that makes me think of intellectual property rights, right? So there are legal processes for guarding ideas. There are legal things put in place in the world to protect ideas. And the internet has demonstrated, for instance, that you can give away your ideas for free. You can simply just give, you can simply just express yourself. And yes, then eventually you monetize it or you sell something, you engage in the commercial system. But I was always intrigued when the internet and when social media started many years ago, that one of the first ideas that was presented is that you could give away your ideas. You could give away code for free. You could give it away. You could do open source code, and people were doing it. So this idea gets discussed here, chapter 4, section 1. Change is always fearful to the separated because they cannot conceive of it as a move toward healing the separation. They always perceive it as a move toward further separation because the separation was the first experience of change. You believe that if you allow no change to enter into your ego, you will find peace. This profound confusion is possible only if you maintain that the same thought system can stand on two foundations. Nothing can reach spirit from the ego, and nothing can reach the ego. Nothing can reach spirit from the ego, and nothing can reach the ego from spirit. Spirit can neither strengthen the ego nor reduce the conflict within it. The ego is a contradiction. Yourself and God's self are in opposition. They are opposed in source, in direction, and in outcome. They are fundamentally irreconcilable because spirit cannot perceive and the ego cannot know. They are therefore not in communication and can never be in communication. Nevertheless, the ego can learn, even though its maker can be misguided. She cannot, however, make the totally lifeless out of the life given. So that paragraph is basically explaining the paradox, right? The ego can't communicate with the spirit, and the spirit can't communicate with the ego, and I'm kind of stuck in the ego mind. So how do I contact the spirit mind? I guess the short and simple answer in A Course in Miracles is through the grace of the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit is talked about in the text as the bridge between the ego and the Father, the source, the creator. So the Holy Spirit was created as that translation device, as that bridge. And later in the text, it's explained that the Holy Spirit can see me as I am now, yet the Holy Spirit knows me as I am in the mind of God. And so the Holy Spirit as it's saying here, the ego can learn. So the Holy Spirit is teaching me in symbols and terms that I can understand, ego terms, ego symbols. And the Holy Spirit is bringing me closer and closer and closer and closer to my true self. And then when I get almost perfectly aligned, when the gap, as it says here, when the gap is closed, or when I come into almost perfect alignment, the last step is taken by God. So, of course, this makes no sense to the ego, and ultimately, there's no sense in really trying to figure it out with the ego mind. The ego mind cannot understand anything from the spirit. Okay. So the idea is, again, to practice, read the text, practice, and practice the lessons from the workbook, and then there will be revelations, there will be intuitive knowing. It'll suddenly just dawn on me one day, different aspects, different parts of this text, different meanings will suddenly dawn on me. Okay, spirit need not be taught, but the ego must be. Learning is ultimately perceived as frightening because it leads to the relinquishment, not the destruction, of the ego to the light of spirit. So the ego needs to be serving the spirit, okay, not in charge. The ego's not in charge. The ego is a vehicle. The ego is to serve the spirit, the ego and the body. This is the change the ego must fear because it does not share my charity. My lesson was like yours, and because I learned it, I can teach it. I will never attack your ego, but I am trying to teach you how its thought system arose. When I remind you of your true creation, your ego cannot but, when I remind you of your true creation, your ego cannot but respond with fear. Every good teacher, I'm skipping around a little bit here, hopes to give his students so much of his own learning that they will one day no longer need him. This is the one true goal of the teacher. And remember, ultimately, as it says in the preface to the Course in Miracles, the idea behind the training and the idea behind the text is to put me in touch with my own inner teacher, with my own inner guru. Okay, so eventually the text, the workbook, all of it eventually becomes meaningless. I don't need it. There's an internal guide, intuition. There's an internal teacher that I can follow moment by moment. Go here, do this, say that. Yes, no. It's all guidance from the higher self. It all happens from within. Every good teacher wants to give to his students his own learning so that one day the teacher is no longer needed. We're talking about externally. This is the one true goal of the teacher. It is impossible to convince the ego of this, but remember, laws are set up to protect the continuity of the system in which the lawmaker believes. It is natural for the ego to try to protect itself once you have made it, but it is not natural for you to want to obey its laws unless you believe them. So here we start hearing some of the language where you are not the ego. When I say I am this, I am that, it's not the ego. I am that I am is the true nature of the self, unconditioned, undefined, unnameable. Right? Egos can clash in any situation, but spirit cannot clash at all. Your worth is not established by teaching or learning. Your worth is established by God. As long as you dispute this, everything you do will be fearful, particularly any situation that lends itself to the belief in superiority and inferiority. Teachers must be patient and repeat their lessons until they are learned. Of course, here it's saying the teacher is the Christ. It's saying the teacher is the Holy Spirit. So the Christ is infinitely patient. The Holy Spirit is infinitely patient. God is infinitely patient. 3 in 1, a Trinity. And so to extend God, to reflect God, if I'm a teacher of something, if I'm a teacher of anything, then I need to be infinitely patient. Teachers must be patient and repeat their lessons until they are learned. I am willing to do this because I have no right to set your learning limits for you. Again, nothing you do or think or wish or make is necessary to establish your worth. The point is not debatable except in delusions. Your ego is never at stake because God did not create it. Your spirit is never at stake because he did. Any confusion on this point is delusional, and no form of devotion is possible as long as this delusion lasts. God is not the author of fear, you are. The ego is afraid of the spirit's joy because once you have experienced it, you will withdraw all protection from the ego and become totally without investment in fear. Right? So the fear of God, right? Fear, it's saying here that the real fear is the fear of complete joy. The real fear is the fear of complete freedom. Why is that fearful? Because the fear is coming from the ego. And the ego has usurped its true role. It's established itself as the king, and as it's put itself on the throne, and it's not in charge. It's a servant. It's supposed to serve the spirit. The spirit's in charge. I am is in charge. God is in charge. And so when the ego begins to sense that you're waking up, that I'm waking up, and it's no longer going to be in charge, it becomes fearful. Of your ego, you can do nothing to save yourself or others, but of your spirit, you can do everything for the salvation of both. Humility is a lesson for the ego, not for the spirit. Spirit is beyond humility because it recognizes its radiance and gladly sheds its light everywhere. The meek shall inherit the earth because their egos are humble, and this gives them truer perception. I will substitute for your ego if you wish, but never for your spirit. A father can safely leave a child with an elder brother who has shown himself responsible, but this involves no confusion about the child's origin. The brother can protect the child's body and his ego, but he does not confuse himself with the father because he does this. This is the higher self talking. This is the Christ consciousness talking. This is Jesus talking. I can be entrusted with your body and your ego. That's the Sermon on the Mount. I can be entrusted with your body and your ego only because this enables you not to be concerned with them and lets me teach you their unimportance. Whoa! I could not understand their importance to you if I had not once been tempted to believe in them myself. Let us undertake to learn this lesson together so we can be free of them together. I need devoted teachers who share my aim of healing the mind. Spirit is far beyond the need of your protection or mine. Remember this. In this world, you need not have tribulation because I have overcome the world. That is why you should be of good cheer. So that last paragraph, I love it. It's pretty heavy duty. Those are some great thoughts. Remember, you can go to ACIM.org online. You can check it out. We're reading from chapter 4, section 1 today. Go back over it. Go see if it interests you. If you'd like to get into it a little bit deeper, then contemplate it, meditate on it. So thanks, Jonathan. Look, Jonathan got me 3,000 likes today. Thanks, Jonathan. And anyone else who hit the screen and gave me a few likes. I appreciate it. I see a couple other people who've been in the room. For most of the time we've been here. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you follow and have a great day. Peace and blessings. I will talk to you later. I'll see you tomorrow. And take care. Have a great day.